Welcome inside our New York studios. Brent Stover alongside Kevin Carter and Beanie Wells. Saturday, number 11, had a lot of showdowns across the country all day and all night. One matchup of teams that have been disappointments, quite frankly, this season occurred in the ACC. Florida State got that great win over Alabama to open the year. Kind of been downhill since. And Clemson, they have never really found their footing and battled head coaches right there. Mike Norvell, Dabo Swinney, Cade Klubnik, quarterback draw. Great play call right here. Tigers able to strike first. And then on a second and goal, FSU, Tommy Castellano's trouble with a handoff. Tigers end up recovering. Seminoles just shooting themselves in the foot there, Kevin.
Yeah, second quarter. Now it's Clemson having a little fun. Adam Randall takes the handoff, flips it back to Klubnik, who then goes deep to Antonio Williams, making an outstanding catch for the touchdown. Tigers go up 15-0. FSU third and goal, trying to get a score before the half. Castellanos rolls out, hits LaWayne McCoy. Seminoles trying to battle back.
In a touchdownless second half, the Seminoles need a touchdown, but Castellanos can't stay on his feet. The Tigers storm the field. They go on to win 24-10.
Clemson defense this season has 6 sacks. Clemson avoids losing 5 conference in a season for the first time since '98. Now, obviously, there is still opportunity for that to happen. They are 4-5 of the win, 24-10 the final. For Florida State, they lose 5 conference games in a season for the 6th time in school history. Of course, it happened last year as well as 2020, 2018, 2017, and 2006. So a couple of 4-5 teams. Klubnik 20-27 in the win. Let's start with Norvell. We're talking about 2 years ago. This team probably should have made the college football playoff, but their starting quarterback gets hurt right there in the final game before the ACC championship. They got snubbed. It has been rough ever since, Beanie.
Yeah, no question about it. The wheels have come falling off this program. We all think Mike Norvell is this great coach. We saw him hit in a transfer portal and him to get his football team to new heights, thinking that Florida State was back trending in the right direction on the horizon. But no, they've hit a ripple in the road right now that they just can't get past. They can't seem to win the games that matter. Losing 5 of their last 6 football games in a fashion that has not been impressive. And then not hitting on the transfer portal in which area in which they had been in the past couple of years. So this is a tough situation right now for Mike Norvell. They're at a crossroads at that program there at Florida State. Do you go in a different direction? Can you afford to go in a different direction financially? And then can you afford to go in a different direction in terms of recruiting, setting back the program even more? Because we all know when you fire a head coach, it's not just about dollars and cents. It's about how far back you set the program in terms of the growth that you've been able to have the last couple of years and the growth that you want to see.
There's a pronounced possible step back from the progress that you have been making when you fire a coach that you have to try to gain ground with. Look, the thing about these coaches, and I think we're going to see this more often than not show up in different programs around the country, is we have coaches going to the portal, getting 15 to 20 players every cycle and rebuilding their teams. It's just the nature of the game that we play and that we observe these days. But I think that's in itself is going to be an art form. Can you get people to come into your program and acclimate them and get them up to speed with your culture and the way you do things to get everyone on the same page? I believe that there is more of a buy-in when you've bled, sweated, and, shed tears with someone as you've been growing up as a young man or woman in a program. I think there is equity in the dog days of summer, the mundane workouts, the chemistry that you build. And we're seeing that on display with these players coming into programs and then having to have them play these meaningful games. How are you going to go to battle with someone that you don't know or you don't love or you're not battle tested along with? I say all that to say this is where Mike Norvell has had the problem. It's not about coaching his guys up to speed. It's about getting the result with new guys in his program for the last 2 seasons where this Florida State program has seen itself fall short.
Just to be clear, 13-0 and an ACC title in 2023. And they got snubbed out of the playoff. Remember, they ended up just getting boat raced in the Orange Bowl that year, but that was their only loss. A bunch of guys transferred out or were injured or just chose not to play. So it feels like it doesn't really count. That was a perfect season. But ever since then, last year, 2-10, 1-7 of the conference. This year, 4-5, 1-5 of the conference so far. On the other side, it's a little more complicated in my mind. Dabo Swinney, and Beanie, we'll start with you. because for the last couple of years, we've talked about the struggles of the Clemson program. But truth be told, in 2023, in a down year by their standards, they still went 9-4. And last year they were 10-4. And that fourth loss was in the college football playoff. Remember, they won the ACC title game and then lost in the college football playoff. So when people talk about the seat perhaps getting warm for Dabo Swinney, I scratch my head a little bit with just how bad it's been the last couple of this year. Yeah, it's been down, but I don't think we can connect all of these years together because the last two have been pretty good by the standards of most programs.
Yeah, I mean, we live in such a what have you done for me lately world. People only remember what just happened this season and the last season prior to. And that's a crazy thing, especially when you're talking about a coach like Dabo Swinney. His record and his resume speaks for itself. He's gotten them to heights that Clemson has never, ever been before in terms of winning national championships, having them competing in college football playoffs, and having them at the top tier of the college football list year after year. So for all of us and the fans that want to call for his job, I don't think it's warranted. I think he has the type of resume that he deserves to go out on his own merit. And it would take like 3 or 4 bad seasons back to back to back in terms of him getting fired and getting out of that job. So it's not one of those deals where he's just going to, be called up by the AD and the chancellor and say, it's time to go, Dabo, pack your bags. It's not happening.
Thank you for saying that, Beanie, because I'm sitting here saying, yeah, man, that man's reputation and the equity that he has built in that Clemson program is better than most coaches' tenures around the country right now, hands down. Like, find me a better active current coach that has a resume that impressive that's still coaching. Look, it's hard to find. To me, he's built up enough equity to have a couple of bad seasons. But Norvell is in a different situation. His skill to evaluate people coming into his program and have them acclimate and produce results on the field, that's what's in question for the last 2 seasons for Mike Norvell. He doesn't quite have that same equity built up with this Florida State program. But to me, if you're Florida State, you don't have the money to pay off that contract. I don't know if we have the details of this, but that's one thing's going to have to take a look at. When I was talking to someone, and I was down at Florida State just last week speaking to their quarterback club meeting, and he said, KC, we don't have the budget to get rid of Mike Norvell right now, so we better figure some things out. And this was someone who was close to the program. I'm not saying he's the person who's going to call the shots. I'm saying that's what I've been hearing. So Florida State, talking about having the money to get out of having, firing coaches, this is a lucrative prospect to get into. If you're LSU, if you're Florida, maybe you've got a little bit more of that SEC revenue sharing model dollars to go around to pay off your coach. But I don't believe that monetarily it makes the most sense for FSU to get rid of Mike Norvell.
That number that you're looking for appears to be somewhere in the range of the mid-50s, maybe 53 to 59 million. But on this day, Dabo was able to kind of stop the bleeding for his program with a 24-10 home conference victory over Norvell and Florida State.